Down Nami here to talk about something I've been quite liking as of late, which is running Precision Secondary for Presence of Mind and Cut Down. The enchant damage changes of 1321 meant that Nami's E is now probably her damage, so even if you cast it on an ally, it triggers Presence of Mind and benefits from Nami's damage amplification, which is where Cut Down can come in. Presence of Mind is comparable with Cookies in lane when it comes to sustain and scales much better. If we look at the best case scenario for Cookies, where you're low in lane and want to get a bit of sustain to hold your ground, 8% missing HP and mana isn't really that much. In terms of health, you're probably going to get about 60 HP from a Cookie at level 3 or 4 if you're really low on HP, and about 90 mana including the 40 flat that Cookies instantly restore. This isn't much. A single heal of W heals for more than that when you factor in AP, and if we convert it all to mana, then Presence of Mind would need to generate about 160 mana to be on par. Depending on level, that's about 80 to 100 seconds of Presence of Mind being active, which you're probably not going to quite hit early, and you get a Cookie at minutes 2, 4, and 6. But this is also being super generous to Cookies and assuming the best case scenario. The best case scenario for Presence is that you get at least one takedown, in which case it instantly outperforms Cookies. My experience running Presence of Mind has been that it generally keeps you better topped off throughout the lane phase, and I only really think Cookies have value in those super close fights where you can use them to bait an enemy, but they're rare. I will concede that there are probably rare games where you'd be better off with Cookies instead of Presence of Mind, but Presence is the more consistent option, and when playing League, we should prefer consistency. However, Presence of Mind isn't the main point of going Precision Secondary. It's just meant to be something nice that means that you don't miss out on sustain. The main point of this video is to talk about Cut Down. What I'm going to say isn't necessarily unique to Cut Down. Coup de grace and Last Stand should also work, but Cut Down is the one you'll get the most consistent value out of. Coup de grace is one of those win more runes. You're only going to get value when the enemy is already low health and it's only 8%, while Coup is always active and deals at least 5%. Last Stand is more of a bruiser rune for champions that can thrive at low health without dying, and Nami isn't really one of them. I'm not saying there aren't circumstances they can work, I just want to talk about Cut Down today. This is in two parts. Number 1, when do we get Cut Down value? And number 2, how much damage does Cut Down do? So just talking about HP, Nami is actually surprisingly squishy. As an aside, none of this is meant to be a judgment on her state of balance. When I say Nami has some of the weakest base stats in the game, that is not a comment on her needing buffs. Nami is an enchanter with sustain. She is balanced by being squishy. She probably could do with some slight buffs to keep up with other meta supports, but that is another discussion. Today we are talking about her current state and what it means for Cut Down. And there are 3 reasons that Nami is so squishy. Her base health is very low, to the point there are only 12 champions with lower base HP than her. She also has one of the lowest health per level values in the game. There are only 4 champions with a lower HP per level than Nami. 3 of these are effectively technicalities, since Kled, Scion, and Mininar all have something in their kit that means they have more health per level in practice, and they are also not found in the bot lane. The only champion that genuinely has less health than Nami in practice is Yuumi, who has both less HP and a lower HP per level. Nami usually rushes Mandate, an item that gives no health. Here is a table I made showing Nami's health at each level up to level 13, how much health someone needs to have Cut Down give its minimum value, give its maximum value, and the extra health someone needs to have to trigger this. As you can see, the minimum is quite low. We can also throw items into the mix. The overwhelming majority of ADCs currently go Doran's Blade as their starting item, which gives them 100 HP while Spell Thief gives 25. This means that by default until level 5 you have the 5% damage increase from Cut Down against any ADC in the game that has a Doran's Blade when you're equal in level, unless it's a Senna. Against the enemy support, unless it's someone super squishy that does not build health, you should get some value from Cut Down since they need to also have low base health and go Spell Thieves or Sickle to not have enough health for Cut Down to trigger. And this is the worst case scenario. You're probably still going to get some value since you'll be trading with the enemy ADC, and you have other factors that can give you more cut down value. You participate in a fight against someone other than the enemy support. Until now, I've been making the assumption that you're fighting someone the same level as you. But if you participate in a jungler fight, or you are out of lane and trying to take down the enemy top laner, or you've let your ADC get some solo experience, you will be lower level than your target and you will get cut down value. Nami doesn't usually build health until her second item, and as a support she is behind the curve in terms of gold income. Most champions will build some health in their items, including supports, and most champions will be further in progress in their builds than you. In conclusion, there are a lot of ways that you can get value from Cut Down, even against supposedly squishy teams. Only when you're ahead are you likely to not get value, but then who cares, you're in a winning position and we're talking about a single minor rune, you're probably going to be fine. So how much damage does Cut Down add? On the face of it, not much, but I would argue that's fine. Last weekend I ran it every game, and it did about 800 to 1300 depending on game length. You might look at this and say that's not particularly notable, but it always outperforms Scorch, with some games dealing double damage. Initial impressions might be that it's bad, but I'd say to remember this is one minor rune and it's not meant to be game warping. Mandate will deal 2,000 to 3,000 damage in a regular game, and that's a full item. On the face of it, these cut down numbers seem low, but we know how much even small amounts of damage can matter. Those of us who have been playing Nami for a while remember how brutal the nerfs earlier this year that took 24 damage off her EW combo were. It was enough to almost push Nami out of meta, and it made her a champion that was relatively weak. Does Cut Down's 5% damage increase undo that nerf to her laning? No, but it does partially revert it to the point that you are noticeably stronger, particularly since we had the bubble damage buff several patches ago. And I think that with Cut Down, Nami's laning feels good again. This was a patch week. Apologies, but we have to fall back on some maths instead of watching footage. Standard Nami runes of double adaptive and spell thieves mean you have 28 AP. These are the numbers on Nami's EW, so overall it deals 152 damage. Add in Scorch and Airy, and this goes to about 185, which Cut Down increases by about 10 damage. Suddenly Nami's EW has only been nerfed by 14 damage, and if you throw in the 1 or 2 extra damage that Cut Down gives to an auto attack or Airy, this gap closes even further. I will say that we are being uncharitable, since you can realistically get a bit more than 5% from Cut Down. Cut Down scales linearly, and you can see how much health was necessary for the maximum value, so the calculations aren't missing much. I believe Cut Down is really nice, and I would recommend it, especially if you prefer AP heavy builds in the mid game. I cannot give feedback on how it feels for Enchanter Nami. I no longer play Enchanter Nami, but I think that it could end up being similar to Scorch in that it's a rune that doesn't scale well, but it stabilizes lane and gives you more control. I would also like to say that I do still think there will be scenarios where you'll still want to run Cosmic Insight, where you get value from it. For example, I don't see Cut Down being good into Pyke, since he doesn't get health from items, and that matchup is won or lost based on who has flash. As ever, I try to be honest and practical about recommendations. While I like this setup, I'm not about to pretend it is better than it is. Try it, see how you like it, and if it's not for you, then by all means don't run it. It's just what I've been liking as of late, and I thought I would share it. Take it easy.